What is the power of one small act of kindness? Hello, I'm Chester Elton, and this is my co-author and dear friend, Adrian Gostick.
Well, thanks, Chess. Yeah, it doesn't take much to be kind, but it does take a commitment. And there's a big benefit to our mental health. As always, we hope the time you spend with us will help reduce the stigma of anxiety at work and in your personal life.
And, talking about reducing stress, I think it's time we took our Magic Mind, Adrian. I love that. I love Magic Mind. I take it every day. These little shots that make me they calm me down. I love the little bottle. It's a green little bottle and it says Magic Mind, mental performance elixir, sharper mind, lower stress, better energy, and reclaim your brain. It's the little bottle like a 5-hour energy, except it's an easy up and an easy down. Well, they also have a subscription option for you to get your Magic Mind. It comes with free shipping, delivered to your doorstep every month without having to do anything else. You're fully stocked for the month. You can cancel without any hassle. And get this, they have a 100% money back guarantee, meaning that you don't have to return anything if you don't like it. They just give you your money back. It comes in 15 or 30 bottles a pack, lasts you 2 weeks to a month, because you take one a day. Now, because
is there a code that I can use to get a discount?
I'm so glad you asked, Adrian. Yes, there is. You get up to a 48% discount.
Oh my gosh.
And the code is leading20. So just go to magicmind.com/leading to get it. And again, the code is leading20. It gets you a pretty sweet deal. And thanks, Adrian. I would have forgotten that. I know I would.
I took my Magic Mind this morning.
So with us today is our dear friend, Curtis Bennett. And when I say dear friend, I mean it. He is the executive director of One Kind Act a Day. The Sumnani Family Foundation created the One Kind Act a Day initiative because small acts of kindness, when done by many, can lead to significant and lasting change. Before joining this initiative, Curtis was a CEO and senior executive spearheading growth for local, national, and international organizations across multiple industries and nonprofits. He brings all his business and leadership acumen together with his underlying passion for recognizing and nurturing the good in others in this new initiative. Curtis, it's always good to spend time with you. Thank you so much for finding time to be on our humble podcast today.
What a great way to start this day by spending it with two of my favorite people in the entire world. So thank you very much. It's a privilege to be here.
You got it.
Well, we're thrilled to have you. Let's start with the basics. When we heard about One Kind Act a Day, we thought, oh, what a perfect place for Curtis to lead. So tell us how this can make the world a little bit of a happier, better place.
So One Kind Act a Day was founded and started at the peak of, those horrible COVID days when we were struggling in so many ways. COVID was being weaponized, politics was being weaponized, schools were being weaponized, people were on the streets and looting, and it was so challenging and difficult. And our founder, Khosrow Semnani, decided that something needed to be done. He wasn't going to wait for legislation. He wasn't going to wait for somebody else to do it. He just decided, if not me, then who? And so I'm going to jump in. And so Khosrow got in and he landed on the idea, what would happen if we could get people who are typically kind anyway, and the vast majority of the populace is kind to begin with, but what would happen if we could get people to be deliberate in their kindness? What if we could get people to be deliberate in performing a single act of kindness every single day? What is the ripple effect? How would that change the world? What would be the butterfly effect? And the fact of the matter is, and you are the experts in this, we know that when someone performs an act of kindness and they're deliberate about it, and if we can get kindness to live on instead of just moving on from kindness, then the ultimate effect is impossible to calculate. When does it stop? When does it end? We don't know. You guys are perfect advocates for the whole idea of the ripple effect. What happens when a person commits a single act of kindness on purpose? Wonderful things occur. And there is a transformation. There's a transformation in the individual. There's a transformation in the person who observed it. There's a transformation in the person who received it. And ultimately, there's transformation that occurs in the environment. And it's a magnificent thing to watch.
And it's so simple, isn't it? I mean, just one kind act a day. We can all do that. So you talk about the ripple effect, which I want to ask you about the Kindness Summit, because I think the ripple effect of the Kindness Summit was remarkable. This bringing together of so many good people in one place. And then talk a little bit about not just the Kindness Summit, but talk about signing the pledge, because I think that's where you talk about intentionally making it a part of your daily routine. And that to me is, when you make a commitment, that's when good things start to happen.
So, with your permission, I'll just change the order real quickly and say, let's start with the pledge. And
Sure.
the reason for that is because the pledge allows an individual not to pledge any kind of money in any way, shape, or form. One of the beautiful things about our organization, we're a fully funded 501c3. We have one donor. We don't accept donations. We don't seek donations. We deflect donations. When people say they want to make a donation to us, we ask them to make a donation to the charity of their choice. But the pledge allows them to be deliberate and allows them to engage with us. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking to grow our community of kindness, grow our community of people who are committed to kindness. And so the pledge allows them to be able to say, okay, I'm going to commit to this. And the pledge also allows them to receive these beautiful quotes that we send out on Monday and Friday, and these prompts of ways in which they could get engaged. And our unsubscribe rate is like 0.001%. Nobody unsubscribes to kindness, right? And we even use these really great quotes. There was this great quote by this up-and-comer that I think has got a future. It's kindness makes gratitude actionable. It was a guy by the name of Chester Elton. He was one of our
He's got much of a future with that name.
Yeah. So these people really love these things, and so that's one of the great things about taking the Kindness Pledge. It engages them with our community of kindness. Our Kindness Summit was, for lack of better terms, in my personal opinion, a miraculous event, and it was really quite amazing what occurred. Miraculous from the standpoint that people showed up. I woke up that morning, just panicked that no one was even going to show up. And as you well know, and you were one of our great featured guests and speakers, it was a packed room, and everybody that was there because it was common ground for them. And I'm getting emotional as I'm thinking about it, but it was common ground. Bishop Spiegel, who was one of the speakers in the religious panel that we had, which became kind of the quintessential image of the summit. These religious leaders locked arm in arm together on stage, saying, "This is an area in which we can agree upon." But Bishop Spiegel made a statement that she said that kindness is the lowest bar, yet it is the highest one to achieve. And what a great statement. It's a really low bar, but every single day we need to work hard to achieve this kindness concept, not only in our daily life, but in our daily talk and our daily walk and our daily everything, right? The other day, I got my car towed. Okay?
Oh, no.
And I was wearing my One Kind Act a Day shirt, and the natural person in me wanted to just scream out, okay? But I couldn't. And I had to be nice to the guy. And when I handed in my credit card and had to pay $380 to get my car back,
Oh, no.
it was like, okay.
Yeah.
I parked it in the wrong spot. So anyway, the Kindness Summit was just an amazing event. So we had all of these people on common ground, as I said, who were united in this whole concept. And one of the really interesting components of the event afterwards or before was, Curtis, how in the world are you going to be able to speak on kindness for 6-7 hours?
Right.
It's going to get really boring. But the one really incredible component of the event after it was fascinating, because we hit every mark. We talked on politics with the Disagree Better initiative and Tim Shriver for his Dignity Index. We spoke on the religious component with that magnificent panel that spoke about kindness being a common denominator. There is no religious divide. There's no socioeconomic divide. There's no there's no ethnic divide. We had the business component handled masterfully by our speaker, Chester Elton. And And then we had, as you know, Darren Margolius, who came and spoke about the whole idea from Beast Philanthropies, how we do not have to accept the foregone conclusion that social media is a bad influence. It can be a really good influence.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that he did. And to be able to walk away and having hit all of the markers where kindness is concerned, and everybody walking away and saying, we did it.
Yeah, one other interjection, on the religious panel, I mean, there was an imam, there was a rabbi, there was from the Episcopal Church, the Catholic Church, the LDS Church, and the other thing that I loved was the educational epicenter of the world. The president from the University of Utah said we need to bring it not just to our personal discourse, our political discourse, in education as well. So yeah, you really did hit all the marks. And it was 3 months ago, and the ripple effect really has been remarkable, hasn't it?
It has been. And the notoriety we have received from that singular event has been significant for us. And we're looking forward to our 2025 event. And one of the great things that I'll even commit to it now, but one of the great things that came out of it was the religious leaders came to us and the business leaders came to us and they said, we really want you to replicate this, but we want you to do it with kids. We want to do it with the youth, because wouldn't it be great if you could get a group of kids to come to something like this and we could educate them and help them to understand. And the fact of the matter is they probably educate us on better ways of being kind. Kids make the greatest mentors.
So with all this that you've done, I think, and the summit is amazing that you put on. I'm really interested in that sort of the individual impact of this. So, with all that you've been doing here, do you have an example maybe of somebody where you've heard the ripple effect kind of going out into the world and making a difference with the initiative?
So there are 1,000 stories, okay, and I could share one, and it would be exactly what you need to hear. And I could share 10,000 and you would never get bored, at least in my opinion. There are some really great initiatives that we've got going on. So let me give a couple of quick examples. So one of them is we're teaching in the juvenile centers here in the Utah area. And this is a pilot program for us. We're actually teaching in the Department of Corrections as well. We're teaching classes of kindness to inmates in the state prison. And these are significant efforts. But let me just share in the juvenile, the group that we are teaching now, there's a female segment and there's a male segment. In the male segment, 3 weeks prior to us entering and starting to teach, the young men had started a riot there.
Oh my gosh.
We were told this was the most challenging group of young men that they had ever had, ever. And so we were walking into a completely unique situation for us. But within a couple of weeks, the directors were telling us the rate of incident has dropped precipitously. And they thought that the boys were going to be kind of ho-hum about this and that the girls would take off with it. The girls are doing great, but the boys embraced it. And we have been marveled as we watched them do a service project where we made these mats out of these plastic bags, and they got into it and they wanted to do it and they were engaged. And when they found out how it was going to have an impact in other people's lives, they wanted to do something. And so very impressed with that. So that's one story. There's another story of a school that we did an initiative with, and they set a goal of 10,290 acts of kindness. Okay. How do you come up with that number? It was simple math. And I love simple math. Here are the number of students. Here are the number of staff. It's a 22-day initiative, 10,290 acts of kindness. Well, by the first week, they killed it. And by the time they had finished 22 days later, they'd done over 41,000 acts of kindness. These kids dove headlong into it. The principal got a call from one of the parents, and they said, "Hey, what are you guys doing at the school?" And they said, "Well, explain." So well, my son came home from school the other day, and he put his dishes away after dinner, and was like, "Who is this child?" And then he went in and he took the garbage out and took it out to the garbage can. We thought, what? And then when I went up to his room and it was clean, I said, "Okay, now what's going on?" And the student said, "Well, we were told, in our kindness initiative at school that if we that if we did kind acts at home, it would count for our kind acts at the school. And so I wanted to do kind acts. So she said, how long is this initiative? It's 22 days. Can you do it all year long?
Yeah.
And that's what they wanted to see. And then the last story I'll tell you is this great mayor. I was talking to a mayor the other day, and she said, this whole thing has changed me dramatically. As a mayor of a city, you would imagine that there are people that are very happy with what you do, and there are some that are very upset with what you do. I was engaged the other day at a city event with a person who was very upset. And not only was she upset, she was really upset. And she lit into me, and she was yelling, and she was not pleased, and she was actually cursing. And the really ironic thing about this whole encounter that I was having with this individual was that her shirt was a T-shirt that said, "Be kind." And I came to the realization, thanks to you and the initiative that we're working, is the message wasn't for her, it was for me.
Yeah. Look at that.
And I realized I can't respond the way I want to respond. Like I wanted to respond to the tow truck driver, right? And she said, so I responded with kindness. And that's what she did. She responded with kindness, and she felt like she had a better engagement and a better encounter than she would have had if she'd done otherwise.
So great. One of the components of the initiative is political discourse, which I know, Khosrow is really focused on as well. And we had politicians at the summit. We had the mayor of Salt Lake City and the governor general, lieutenant governor of Utah. Talk about, particularly now as we're heading into the general elections and so on, that causes a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of, meanness and divisiveness and anger. So how can we tamp that down for ourselves and others that don't want to lose the hate that goes on in that political discourse?
So when we talk with people, we tell them that we're involved in the political arena. They kind of roll their eyes and they say, well, with kindness, you got to be kidding me. This is a foregone conclusion that it's a lost cause. There's nothing we can do, that they're spiraling out of control. And we disagree. And so my basic approach to this is this. Math is wrong. Okay. What do you mean by math is wrong? We learned in math that if you take a negative and you multiply it times a negative, you're going to get a positive out of it. Well, the fact of the matter is, where human behavior is concerned, that's just not true. And where politics is concerned, that's just not true. And so what happens is we are assailed with a negative experience. And for some odd reason, we feel that if we respond with negativity, somehow we're going to end up with a positive response. And that's just not going to happen. But we do it time and time and time and time again. And that's what our political narrative is all about. We take negativity, we multiply it with more negativity, and we hope somehow, miraculously, we're going to end up with some kind of positive result. And that's just not going to happen. And so math is also wrong when it says that if we take a negative and we multiply it times a positive, we're going to end up with a negative. Well, like the situation with that mayor, she had a negative situation. She had a positivity to it, multiplied it with positivity, and she got more of a positive encounter out of it. And that's what we need to do. If we are assailed with negativity, we need to stop and listen. We need to add whatever positivity, or multiply it times whatever positivity we can. And it may not be exactly the situation that we want out of it, but we can get more positivity out of it. We can be more deliberate in our ways of conversing with one another. So that's why we like the National Governors Association's initiative that they started with Disagree Better. We really like that initiative. It's not about whether or not I agree with you on the whole concept of the wall or abortion or affirmative action or any of the different things that we can argue about. It's that I can learn to disagree better with you on the whole concept. I can listen. I can understand better your perspective. Maybe if I listen to you, you'll listen to me. We may never agree, but let's disagree agreeably. And then the other initiative that we really like an awful lot is the one that's done by Tim Shriver, the Dignity Index. And he says exactly the same thing, that we can, as a culture, disagree better. Diversity is not just differences, okay? Pluralism is a different thing. It's where we take our diversity and we can have pluralism. It says there are no barriers. We can actually have a good conversation about the diversity that we have and walk away encouraged, walk away enlightened, walk away lifted because we understand the diversity better.
Love that. Such important work you're doing, Curtis, and your team. How do people find out more about the initiative?
So thank you very much. They can go to thepowerofkind.org and get more information on who we are. When they take the kindness pledge, which we encourage them to do, essentially what they're doing is they're committing to a single act of kindness every day. They'll receive those prompts, and that will keep them engaged with us. And then they can find out more. What we hope will happen is this, Adrian, as they get engaged with our site. We hope that they'll reach out to us and they'll tell us some of the good things that they're doing. We hope that they'll reach out to us and say, hey, can you help us in our school? Can you help us with our city? Can you help us with our business? But what we also hope, and we really know that this is going to be the case, we hope that people will go to our site and will never know they were there. And they'll glean information and they'll say, hey, I can do this. Okay. I can make this happen in my school. And I'm going to take some of these resources and I'm going to apply them. And I may never know they were ever there. And I'm okay with that. But if they can take the information and they can utilize it to help bring kindness more powerfully into their narrative, our hope is that they will amplify kindness, they will advocate for kindness, and they will exemplify kindness. And if I knew they visited our site or not, immaterial to me.
Yeah. Excellent.
One of my last questions before we're getting kind of tight on time for you, I want to make sure we get you going. But
good.
The podcast is Anxiety at Work. Anybody who's neurodiverse, they may think, look, I'll be kind until somebody pushes back on me and then it's all over. And there's a lot of stress that can come with this. So how can we get people who maybe are more neurodiverse involved? And how can we be more kind to maybe those who are struggling with mental health issues? I saw a great section on your website about being kind to those on the autism spectrum. So talk a little bit about that as we get near the end here.
So kindness draws large circles of inclusion. And the larger the circle that we can draw, or the more circles we can draw, the more comfortable we can feel in our own space. And so, and I think one of the really, truly undervalued components of kindness is the whole concept of courage. It takes courage to be kind. Okay. When I'm being assailed with disrespect, it takes courage to respond kindly. When I'm being misunderstood or when I'm being marginalized, it takes courage. And sometimes it's hard for us to muster up that courage. But as I draw these lines of inclusion, I'm willing to take a look at my circle. And even if just minimally, I'm willing to open that circle just a little bit, then I'll find that I've included somebody that allows me to have the courage to draw that circle a little bit more and a little bit more. And you know, as well as I know, and you're the experts at this, that it's all about relationships, okay? And the more we can develop these strong relationships, the less anxious I'm going to feel. Isolationism or feeling isolated or being isolated in my cell phone or my computer creates anxiety, and being able to eliminate that is so tied into the relationships that we develop. That Harvard study that you're very well versed on talks about how important that truly is, right?
Yeah. Hey, give us one big takeaway as we wrap up. What's one thing you want people to remember from this conversation?
Kindness
today?
doesn't require a committee. Kindness doesn't require legislation. Kindness doesn't require, some long and involved process. I have seen transformational things occur with the simplest statement, with the simplest gesture, with just a smile, with an opening of a door, with helping somebody with their groceries. It doesn't take a lot. And it's an amazing thing to watch.
Well, listen, we could talk to you all day, Curtis. His name is Curtis Bennett. He is the executive director for the One Kind Act today. Go to the website, thepowerofkind.org. Put April 12th, I believe, is the date for next year's Kindness Summit, again at
Yes.
the University of Utah. I was there. It was a remarkable experience. And just, One Kind Act today can change the world. Curtis, thank you so much for being our
Thank you.
guest today. You're
And you are
amazing.
both
Thanks,
amazing
Chris.
as well.
So, Adrian, I mean, we've known Curtis Bennett for a long time, and time with Curtis is always you always feel uplifted. You always feel like you can be a better person. But I'm curious, what were your key takeaways from the conversation?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, when we heard that Curtis was now the executive director of One Kind Act Today, we went, well, duh.
Yeah, who else would you pick, right?
Exactly. Because we knew Curtis. And one of the problems with Curtis, he was just too nice in every organization he was with. People would walk through fire for him because he was and he was the CEO of tech companies and different people, may not realize this guy has a pretty distinguished career. And he's also just the nicest human being you'll ever meet. So he does create this ripple effect around him. So I just thought that was the first part, is this idea of the ripple effect, that he says, look, kindness doesn't just affect ourselves, it affects the people that we are kind to, but more importantly, those around us who see that we ripple that out.
Yeah, it's good for you. It's good for them. It's good for the people that see it. Yeah. It's interesting. You and I worked with Curtis for years, and then he went on to do Mentors International, where they went to impoverished countries and help people with microloans. He's done a remarkable work in his church and so on. He really does spread goodness everywhere he goes. But I'll tell you, one of my big takeaways with math is wrong. I love that. Math is wrong. A negative times a negative is not a positive when it comes to, if you're mean and then somebody's mean back to you, it doesn't make you both kind. That is my big takeaway, because I'm not good at math, and I'm delighted to know that math can be wrong.
As you always say, you were part of the math class that made the upper half possible. So that was nice of you. But we see this so often, and I love this analogy. I won't forget it in politics, because I caught myself the other day in a stressful time, and somebody started kind of yelling and getting angry, and I just said, "Look, I'm not going to take this anymore." And so off I went, and it didn't. And I finally, after about a minute, I said, "Okay, whoa, let's take this down. Let's calm down." You and I, we do a lot of mentor work with younger people in their 20s that we're trying to launch their careers. I had a young person come to me recently. She says, I was with my therapist. She says, I'm so nervous about the election coming up. And my therapist said, yeah, me too. Not exactly helpful here, but everybody's nervous about it, right? And that creates angst, and we start getting angry. And again, a negative and a positive still creates a negative. A negative and a negative still creates a negative. Love that.
I loved the dignity index, and we didn't have a lot of time to drill down on that, but I encourage our listeners to just Google the dignity index, Tim Shriver. Words of dignity, and then the opposite of dignity is contempt, and words of contempt. And it just doesn't give you the index. It gives you, what do you do? Listen more, ask questions, give people credit. The default is be kind, be kind. One of the other things I love that he said was circles of inclusion. You had a great question about, what do you do when you see people suffering from mental health? They're anxious, they're depressed. And he says it creates circles of inclusion. It opens the door for, confidence and support. And I love that concept of circles of inclusion.
Too. Because it might be yourself too, and you kind of go, look, I have anxiety, I have depression. If I start being nice to somebody and they pull the rug out from under me, they don't accept it. Because I've had that where somebody will go up and say, hey, can I help you carry your groceries? They go, yeah, you can mind your own business, and it crushes them.
Yeah, no
so
kidding.
We've all had that where you try to do something nice and it gets crushed.
Yeah.
And I think what he just said then is, like, it takes courage to be kind.
Right.
And you're just looking to expand your circle a little bit. Sometimes it may not, but it's on them. If they reject the kindness, it's still in your heart. It's still good. You're still building from it. And just think about expanding your circle just a little bit if this is hard for you.
Right. My last takeaway is his final statement. He said, kindness doesn't take a committee. Yeah. You don't have to ask for permission. You don't have to fill out any forms. You don't have to go through any red tape. Just be kind. You can do it on your own. You can do it anytime. And it just makes a better day for you and everybody around. So I love that. Kindness does not take a committee.
Well, great sessions today. What a great reminder. As Curtis was talking about his kindness summit, I remember our first recognition gratitude summit years ago, maybe 15 years ago, Chess, in New York. And we were wondering the same thing. Would anybody come? And then I remember at the end, we were setting more chairs up and we packed the room. And people wanted to hear about gratitude. They want to hear about kindness. They want to hear about positive things. So, one of the most positive things in our life is our producer, Brent Klein. Such a great guy. We want to thank him, Christy Lawrence, another positive influence in our lives who helps us find amazing guests. And to all of you who listened in, if you like the podcast, please share it. We'd also love you to visit thecultureworks.com for free resources, including more information on our best-selling book, Anxiety at Work.
Yeah, we love to speak to audiences all around the world, whether it's virtual or it's in person, on resilience, teamwork, culture, gratitude, kindness. Give us a call. We'd love to speak at your event. And if you're a little anxious about it, take a little dose of Magic Mind. I think it'll really calm you down. It'll bring your brain back. Now, I always give Adrian the last word, but this time I want the last word because today I got my kindness quote from onekindactaday.org, and it's this: kindness is not a nice to have. It's a must have for ourselves and for others, by Cynthia Germanata. And the kindness idea is, this is a political year. In all our communication and discourse, let's try to retain dignity and kindness, challenge ideas, don't attack people. And that's my final word for today. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Share it with your friends, and we'll see you again next week. Cheers.